These dragons were real. They existed in the heroic age, and dragon hunters went out and slayed them. Now, not all dragons were evil. Okay, I can see that they were good dragons. There were many good dragons in history, and dragons, I think, are a neutral entity. They're not inherently evil. They're not inherently good, but a lot of the time they do tend to go on the negative side on average. But it's very clear that there were dragons. Okay, we see these fossils that they call dinosaurs. Now, I'm not denying dinosaurs, but I'm saying that dragon, dinosaur, where is the line? Where do they pull the line? What are they trying to hide? What are they trying to keep us from understanding about our own history? Because, of course, if dragons are real, then all these tales about slaying dragons are real, and all this history about slaying dragons are real, and all the people and all the stories associated with that are more believable. And history changes in our eyes. So we have the Hogwartsia dragon. Obviously, this is a dragon. This is not fake. This is not a made up entity. This is mainline paleontology, and they're mocking us essentially by calling it Hogwartsia because it's actually a real dragon, but they want to drape it in some fanciful language so it'll be associated with Harry Potter, so it becomes even more fake in their minds, even though it's a real dragon that they found and are just trying to play off as it being some sort of dinosaur. I don't know. This is not a dinosaur, this is a dragon. T-Rex, maybe there's some draconic stuff going on there as well. And then we have draconic bloodlines. So what are the draconic bloodlines? There's many people who associate themselves with dragons. The Welsh associate themselves with the red dragon. And Merlin had a vision of two dragons fighting, a red dragon and a white dragon. The white dragon, again, another people associated with a dragon, the Saxons being the white dragon. The Celtic Britons were the red dragon. Okay, so there's two draconic people fighting each other for dominance over the British Isles. Merlin claiming that the red dragon will overcome the white. You also have the Bhutanese people. Literally, Bhutan means the land of the thunder dragon. And the Chinese have a very intimate connection with dragons and dragon energy. There is such a thing as dragon energy. It's out there. You can see it, you can feel it, you can analyze it amongst these types of people. So why are there people associated with dragons? Well, if you were going to go directly into the fear side of alternative history, into fear projection, into fear mongering, you could say, well, these are reptilian bloodlines. These are reptiles, these are reptoids, these are negative entities automatically. Anything associated with reptilian automatically means bad. And I can understand that perspective because there's a lot of obvious entities throughout history that were associated with negative operations, like Quetzalcoatl, who is associated as a demonic dragon reptilian type entity. But I don't think it's necessarily that black and white. So let's just look at the draconic absorption, the draconic bloodline aspect that could possibly not be 100% dark side. Okay, you have Sigurd, and he slays Fafnir. What does he do? He absorbs his essence, he drinks his blood, and he becomes more powerful. Okay, this motif pops up again with Skyrim. In Skyrim, you absorb the dragon energy, you absorb the dragon soul, and you become more powerful, and you have more unlocks, and you have more buffs. And Skyrim is the most popular game of all time for a reason, is because Skyrim unlocks and is associated with our blood memory of the heroic age. And you also have Cadmus, who slays a dragon, and he's foretold that he too will become a dragon. So this aspect of slaying the dragon and absorbing its energy pops up again. Game of Thrones. I know it's fiction, but there's a lot of truth in fiction. I know Skyrim is a video game, but there's a lot of truth in video games. The Targaryens, the draconic bloodline. Okay, they are the dragon. I am the dragon. They are associated with dragons. They're dragon riders. And there's dragon riders in their own myths. We'll get to that. But to me, dragons are not necessarily 100% evil. Reptilians are not necessarily 100% evil all the time. There's a story of the Buddha, actually, who converted reptilians to Buddhism, and they became buddies. Okay, now on average, obviously, a reptilian is not going to be 100%, on your side, but not every entity is automatically associated with being on the dark side. Every entity has that free will. So to me, dragons, there's something about dragons that pulls you in. I know there's people who just grew up obsessed with dragons. Everybody had a dragon phase, and especially millennials. Millennials are draconic. Okay, there's dragon energy amongst the millennials. We grew up with Reign of Fire. Dragonheart. Dragonheart, another perfect example of this draconic essence absorption. He merges with the dragon. He becomes more powerful than the dragon. Maybe he's even corrupt because there's dragon blood in him, or maybe not. But the aspect is that there is this motif of the dragon bloodline, of dragon energy, of merging dragon with man and becoming something greater. And so I think millennials have a lot of dragon energy, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I'm going to go out on a limb here and be a bit pro-dragon, even though I do see there are a lot of negative aspects. There are a lot of negative things associated with dragons and draconic bloodlines. But again, you have to take the good and the bad. You have to understand that there's more to the story than just everything is black and white, especially when everybody agrees. The typical alignment is that draconic energy is automatically negative. But the Chinese and the Eastern world has a completely different association with draconic energy. I mean, the Year of the Dragon is considered very lucky. There's lots of dragons featured in festivals. It's associated with flourishing, with prosperity. The emperors claim themselves to be descendants of dragons. We go back to, again, this dragon bloodline. Similar references exist in Japan and Korea and Vietnam. And so there's a lot to do with dragons. And we have dragons in our own world. We have Komodo dragons. Their bite is poisonous. It burns. It's hot. Okay. And another reason why we don't find a lot of real dragons anymore is because the monster hunters, they destroyed them. They, like, a lot of the entities we don't find anymore. Why don't we find that? Where's the evidence? People ask. Where's the bones? Well, everything was cremated back then. People were cremated. Monsters were cremated, especially if you don't want it to come back to life. You're going to burn it. And dragons, when they're slayed, their glands get, decimated, and a lot of the time they catch fire and self-immolate. So there's a lot to do with dragons. I remember this TV show, Tir Nig Nog. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was a lot about the Tuatha De Danann. It was kind of like the Power Rangers of Ireland. There was a lot of dragon energy in that show, and I loved that show when I was a kid. I was obsessed with that show, and the main character was a dragon rider. And so it was a red dragon associated with the Brittonic people, with the Celtic people. Celtic people have a lot of draconic energy, obviously. Am I going to chalk that up as being something 100% evil? No, I'm not, actually. Maybe you guys have some experiences with dragons, or have experiences with dragon energy, or understand what I'm talking about when I'm out here on a limb defending dragons. I can see the good and the bad with the dragons. I can see that there were some things about them that may or may not have been positive, especially when they're stealing women and hoarding gold. And there is a myth about, but there's also a transcendence. When you destroy the dragon, you become the dragon, or you ensnare the dragon, and you use the dragon energy for your own will, for your own drive, for your own ability. You level up once you conquer the dragon or ensnare the dragon. So there is a merger with dragons that is part of a quest in a larger hero's journey that we're undergoing. And now you could say that's symbolic. And in today's world, it is going to be symbolic because the dragons are gone. Maybe there's a couple left in the Himalayas. Maybe there's a couple left in maybe that's going on in Greenland or the far north. There could be a couple. Hidden Dragon, Reign of Fire. Did anybody watch Reign of Fire? That movie was amazing. Okay, that was one of my favorite movies growing up. Dragon Apocalypse. That's one of the most underrated movies of all time. Sure, some people might think it's a bit campy. I think it's great. And there's another great story about dragon riders that has really been hidden and not talked about very often, and that's the Solomonari of the Thracian or Dacian area. But these were red-headed wizards who rode dragons around the Carpathians, around Transylvania, Wallachia. They were powerful sorcerers, okay? And they controlled the weather, and they summoned rain, and they were associated with the skies. And they were depicted as benevolent. They weren't vengeful. They weren't trying to harm people. And they carried the dragon banner, just like the Dacians. The Dacians, again, another Indo-European people associated with dragons, having a positive association with the dragons. One of them even had a Draco, a Dacian Draco, which was a wolf-headed dragon standard. Okay, that's like super metal, if you ask me. And it was their military symbol. They carried it into battle against the Romans. And again, these draconic roots can be found everywhere. But the Solomonari, there's something I can kind of identify with. Okay, just being a red-headed dragon rider, to me, there's something that's deeply resonant with that. And that's why with these stories, again, of benevolent dragon riders, of the benevolent dragons of China, of all these different dragon peoples, it's kind of a mixed bag with the dragons. They can kind of go either way. And that's kind of what I see gets lost, is that you automatically associate an entity with a moral alignment. Okay, all dragons are chaotic evil. All elves are automatically lawful good. And I don't think it's that simple. People have tendencies in their heart. People have that morality pulling them in certain directions. But everybody, everything, every creature can overcome that inner binding, that inner pull. So I think dragons, especially when combined with a skilled dragon rider, can really overcome that draconic essence, and it can be channeled for good. It can be channeled as benevolent. It can be channeled as something, and there's other mythological creatures with this motif too that aren't necessarily 100% evil. The werewolf, a perfect example of that. We can get into the werewolves in a different video, but I see the werewolves also having this on the edge, on the knife's edge. There's a lot of redemption stories involved with werewolves. It's, again, very Hyperborean, the red-headed dragon riders who are, benefiting the land, trying to create prosperity, trying to uplift the people, trying to, they're like dragon rider bodhisattvas. That's kind of what we're doing here. That's what a lot of you guys are. You're from draconic bloodlines. There's a lot of interest in bloodlines in my channel, especially having to do with RH negative stuff. We're going to get into that too, but I think it does very much tie into these draconic merger dynasties that a lot of us descend from, that a lot of you descend from, that a lot of you resonate with. And that's the thing, is that I think if you resonate with a creature, if you resonate with a mythological symbol, that is tied to your past. That is tied to your bloodline. That's tied to your essence. So people want to know, people ask me, what is my bloodline? What bloodline am I tied to? Well, you have to, first of all, what are you drawn towards? What is it that speaks to you? What is it that resonates with you symbolically and energetically? And if it's a dragon, well, it's probably because you were part of this draconic line. Same thing, there's werewolf lines, there's vampire lines, there's all sorts of different lines out there that, depending on, again, what are you pulled to, what do you feel the most, what do you sense the most, what invokes the most in you, that is your line. And so I'm out here because I understand the fear and the fear mongering about the dragon lines, but I'm out here defending, okay, which is obviously not going to be 100% popular in this realm, but again, I understand the negative association. And I'm not saying that it's 100% that dragons are good, because again, Fafnir was not a good dragon. Smaug was not a good dragon. But when reeled in and domesticated by a hero, there seems to be a magnifying aspect to that power outage, that power outlet that you can find when you conquer the dragon. And so let me know what your feelings are about the dragons. If you have any draconic energy, if you feel the dragon energy. Have you seen a dragon? I think they're out there. I think they were real. I think the dragons were part of the Hesiod's heroic age. Again, like all the other mythological creatures that they're trying to cover up. There was definitely, like, it's too common. It's too common. And you could say, well, oh, it's just an archetypal resident of all the different predators that we remember combined together. No. Okay. Like, there would be a wolf. There would be like cat in there. Like, it's not just all the predators that we were afraid of combined together. It would be a lot more than just a flying lizard. Like, flying predators, really? Like, were flying predators that big of a problem for us? I don't think so. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think that's just, the archetype type people who just have to boil everything down to psychological processes trying to cover up dragons, because again, dragons are real. So if we go back even to the Indo-European myths, we have typically dragon slayers. We have Beowulf, we have Sigurd, we have the founder of the city Thebes slaying a dragon. And so this represents, in the heroic age, a time when there were creatures who were flying around, stealing women, stealing wealth, causing entropy in the land. And then these dragon slayers, they come out and they take care of these dragons. They slay them. These dragon slayers are our heroes. We have Thor killing Jormungandr. We have Sigurd killing Fafnir. We have Apollo against Python. And over again, we see this motif, especially in the Indo-European world. Indra fighting Vitra, etc., etc. It's a cosmic battle between the forces of order versus the forces of chaos. Chaos being represented by a dragon in this instance. What else do they steal? They steal wealth, they steal women. This shows that they are trapping the land in stagnation. They're creating a static mode of being. They're constricting energy from being able to flow. And so the hero has to go out, he has to slay this dragon, he has to release the tension in the land by killing the beasts that haunts us, that hunts us, that hides in caves, that hoards wealth, that causes all the stagnation in the land. And then he becomes the hero. He becomes the Lord, he becomes the savior, right? St. George killing the dragon as well. So if we're just looking at it symbolically, the dragon, it represents many different things, and that's kind of what a symbol can do. You can break it down into many different aspects of it, not necessarily good, not necessarily evil, and you have to really understand what that type of symbol is using and the context of the symbol, because you can get carried away and just automatically write off any symbol as bad, but you really have to get into the nitty-gritty of symbolism and that type of understanding to be able to fully engage with it, because otherwise you could be misinterpreting things, you could be misaligning things, and you're just going to jump to false conclusions in your searches and in your wisdom quest. So yes, there's lots of negativity involved with dragons, but again, as I've shown too, there's lots of positivity. It's a yin and a yang. It's the Oberus, again, the Oberus being the serpent devouring itself. So I wouldn't so easily write off dragons, and I do think they are a special creature and they deserve respect at the very least, whether or not you see them as terrible, greedy defilers, or if you see them as wisdom, enlightening, bringing happy flying creatures. Thanks for listening. If you like the video, please give it a like. Feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.